Let's talk about Kolkata because they've been a stinking hot mess all the way through this tournament so far. I mean, all the way through. By that I mean the first part, the bit earlier. They've actually been quite good in the second half. And of course that's one game, but it was a game against Bangalore and they were spectacular. The pitch was good, there was a little bit of dew early on and they bowled very well and Bangalore completely fell apart. In fact, Bangalore never even crossed 100 in this game. And looking at the standings, this is about the opposite of how you think a game between these two teams should have gone ahead.
This is the last knock. My dad refuses to tell me what this means.
So far, Kolkata just have been terrible, and Owen Morgan has taken most of the blame for that. And don't worry, there will be a video on him, which I actually think I started working on, like 6 months ago, but we haven't quite made it yet. But he's not really to blame for what's been happening to Kolkata. That's because their very good and long batting lineup really hasn't gone anywhere at all, and their bowling lineup just has not made any sense. Now remember, Bangalore did not pass 100. The bowling lineup showed up today. This graph here shows you a little bit of how Kolkata have been going so far in the tournament. This is the economy rate in the 6 major parts of the game. So you're batting, power play, middle and death, and the same with the bowling. You can see here that all the teams have different shapes, and that's because they're obviously better at different places in the game. Not everyone's good at every part of the game, but the very good teams are usually good or above average at most parts of the game, and the very bad teams are, not so good. So let's have a look at Kolkata's just up close. You can see straight away that they are just almost heroically bad in the death. They don't score very quick in the death, and everyone scores incredibly quick against them in the death. But if you look all the way around this, there just isn't very many good spots for them. It's quite clear here that the bowling death has been absolutely heroically bad, as has the batting depth. They let a lot of runs go when they bowl and they don't score as many as they should. In fact, let me show you this even clearer. But I do want to focus on the death just because it's a little bit funny as much as anything. So when you look at the batting and the bowling and the death, this is how good each team is. If you like Chennai and scoring at over 13 runs and over and only allowing around 9 runs and over, then you're +4 in the death. That's really good. If you like Kolkata, you're -2.2. And remember, this is per over. That means for every 6 overs at the death, they are just leaking runs. So that was a big advantage today, that the death played almost no part in this game. By the time Bangalore got to the death, their innings was, in fact, already dead. But it has been a problem for Kolkata, and I really want to look at Kolkata's bowling overall, because that's what won them the game today. They've only had 3 bowlers bowl over 30 deliveries in the death, and kind of everyone's had a go and no one's been particularly good. Andre Russell's been incredible at taking wickets in the death, but he's also going at over 2 runs and over. Cummins has been ordinary, especially considering how much they're paying him, and this is somewhere that you would expect him to bowl better. Only Prasidh Krishna has really been good at the death, and he's been okay. He's just not set the world on fire. They've just not been good in this section, Kolkata. So let's go to the middle, see if there's anything better there. Sunil Narine has been very hard to hit. Here, their very expensive bowler Pat Cummins has taken a lot of wickets, but also gone for probably a few more runs, but maybe that's because they've been trying to attack with him. But again, just all their bowlers are kind of on the wrong side of the league average here. And this is really where you would expect Kolkata to be really good. They've got Sunil Narine and Varun Chakravarti and Pat Cummins all bowling for them in this section. They're all good bowlers at this time. It just hasn't really come together. Chakravarti just hasn't got wickets, and Cummins has gone for too many runs, and Narine has chipped in with wickets but not really taking control. So even what is the strength of their bowling has been fairly poor. I mean, you could say that Andre Russell's maybe been their best death bowler by this, at least by the wickets he's taken. And if Andre Russell is bowling at the death, something has gone wrong. That really shouldn't be his role in this team. I think the power plays where Kolkata's bowling attack really has made the least amount of sense for me. They essentially don't have a new ball seamer, which is a bizarre thing to go into any T20 tournament without. Being that new ball wickets are so much more important than wickets at any other stage in the game. As far as spinners goes, Chakravarti's bowled really well with the new ball, and he's not a problem at all, but you really want to back him up with a seamer. Shivam Mave actually had bowled pretty okay, but he's just an average player at best. But they can't always fit him in the side. Prasith's numbers look pretty good here, but this is only from 3 innings where he bowled only 5 overs in total. They basically don't trust him to bowl more in the power play. And Cummins has never really been a great power play bowler. Even in Test cricket, he doesn't always take the new ball. He generally bowls a little bit deeper into the innings. And Ferguson is a better power play bowler than Cummins, but Cummins could bat better, and so they went with Cummins. So you're basically left with Shimamave, who's just a fringe player, and Chakravarti, who you want a lot of his overs in the middle as well. So if you just go through everything I just told you, when Cummins played, he didn't bowl particularly well in the power play, which meant he had to bowl more in the middle. That actually affected Kolkata quite a bit. It meant that Chakravarti had to bowl even more overs in the power play. It meant that Cummins was taking up the seam bowling overs in the middle overs, which meant that Andre Russell couldn't bowl there as much. And it meant that Lockie Ferguson was not in the side. By picking Cummins, kind of everything went a bit downhill. And you might think, well, they should have just dropped him earlier. But it's very hard to drop someone who you've paid that much money to. It actually causes problems within the team sometimes. Not to mention that, as I said before, Cummins can bat. He's made a very quick 50 in this tournament. So that just caused even more problems for them. And if I've not painted a pretty picture about what the first half of Kolkata's tournament was like, well then you've just forgotten where they were in the standings. It was not a pretty picture. And the numbers show that it wasn't just bad luck. But they won today, and so let's look at a few things that they did differently. 1, they went in with 5 bowlers. That hasn't always been the case. They've been going in with 6. That's always going to be a bit of a risk, especially as Andre Russell is probably still going to have to bowl to death for them. And bowling attacks are probably better when Andre Russell doesn't have to bowl the full 4 overs, for his knees and sometimes for the figures. The other thing they did was they trusted Prasith Kumar to bowl in the power play, and he took Virat Kohli LBW. I mean, we also saw the other side where he bowled all those no balls in a clump together and everything could have gone horribly wrong. But he's clearly a bowler with incredible talent. It's just that he's still putting things together. There seems to be a lot more moving parts to him than there needs to be. And he's going to have very good days and very bad days. Today has to count as a very good day. Ferguson took the other wicket in the power play, and he's just a better power play bowler than Pat Cummins. And at the end of the power play, I remember looking at the score and thinking, 42 for 2. Do you know what? Kolkata would definitely take that. That's more wickets than they've been taking on average and a better economy rate than they've been allowing. It may not have looked spectacular, but for them, they were in the game. Of course, what happened next was far better from their perspective. In the 9th over, Andre Russell took 2 wickets. One was from maybe, let's say, a building of pressure. And the second one was from a very fast surprise Yorker to AB de Villiers. And you can talk about the fact that AB de Villiers hasn't played a lot of cricket coming into this, but that's happened to him a few times, and generally he still makes a lot of runs. He just got beaten by a fast, good Yorker. Maxwell was taken by Chakravarti. He doesn't like playing him. He doesn't seem to pick him that well. And Chakravarti, who hasn't been taking middle over wickets, suddenly took another one as well, and went within a splinter of taking a hat trick. Traditionally, he's been good in the middle overs. He just hasn't been good in the middle overs for the first part of this tournament for Kolkata. Suddenly he was. And then Kyle Jamieson was run out off his fingertips, which is unlucky, but also pretty much ended Bangalore's innings at that point. So it's important to just think about what's changed for Kolkata with everything that we've just talked about there. They took 2 power play wickets, and they also slowed Bangalore down early on. They kept slowing them down in the middle, which should be their strength, and today looked like their strength. So basically, Kolkata trusted their young bowler, which they've been reticent to do so far, and he took Virat Kohli's wicket. They brought in another overseas pro, and he did better than the last one. Andre Russell back in the middle overs continued to take wickets, as to be fair, he has pretty much all the way through this tournament. And Chakravarti took wickets in the middle, which he just weirdly hasn't done for a while. Prasith will have bad days in the power play, because things will go wrong for him. And Dre Ross won't always take 2 easy wickets in the middle and will sometimes get absolutely tapped at the death when he's bowling his 4 overs, which he's not particularly made for these days. In some ways, it's a riskier team that they've picked, but look at where they are on the table. I mean, they kind of have to take some risks. And today they worked. And if it keeps working, who knows? They might continue to annoy teams on the way to the final. I don't think they'd make it themselves, but they already look better. They weren't fully tested today, but this lineup already looked better than, pretty much the entire first half of the IPL season. People weren't even moaning about Owen Morgan. That's how well Kolkata did.